Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Central Oregon Survival Network. I just want to do a quick review on some stuff that I learned just recently. I'm not an avid snowshoer by any means, but I want to do a review on what I have found works and doesn't work, and my recent findings with quality versus sub-quality snowshoes. And that's pretty important, especially in the backcountry, as everybody knows, and I'm sure avid snowshoers know this firsthand. But first I'd like to say, a lot of people think snowshoeing is an easy sport and, anybody can strap them on and just take off. Well, while that might be true, you also have to consider it's very physically demanding, especially when you're wearing anywhere from a 30 to 40 pound pack, depending on your winter pack out. You also got to have navigational skills. Sometimes your trail markers are covered, or they're hard to find, so you better make sure you have some navigational skills, not only with GPS, map, and compass, and make sure that you have the proper clothes for what you're doing. And what I mean by that is, and a lot of people that have been hiking and snowshoeing, sometimes it's hard to find the right clothing. And that'll be a little bit more on my other reviews, is finding the right clothing. Because even for myself, everybody's different. And finding stuff that you don't sweat excessively is sometimes hard to do. And I still sweat, and I only wear maybe 2 layers in 10-degree weather, and I still end up sweating when I'm doing extensive snowshoeing. But what I really want to cover is quality versus sub-quality snowshoes. What I'm going to show you is a set of Yukons from Costco, and they're about $89.99, and they come with poles. And I'll also show you the MSR EVOs. I don't have the Ascent snowshoes, and I don't have the Lightning Ascent snowshoes. Of course, those are a little expensive, but great quality. Now, as I talked about before, in the backcountry and when you're snowshoeing, it is very important that you buy quality. Recently, I was just out and have bought a pair of Yukon snowshoes. And backing up a little bit, my experience with snowshoeing is very minimal compared to a lot of people that do it avidly. And I was out there and I thought, well, these are a pretty good set of snowshoes, and they broke on me. And then when you're about 2 miles out, 3 miles out, and some pretty deep powdered snow, and a snowshoe breaks on you, that could be a very critical moment. Because once it breaks, and if you've ever been out in the snow without snowshoes, in deep snow, we're talking 2-3 feet deep, and this isn't like up on the mountain, where you get 9-10 feet deep. This is, 2 to 3 feet deep, but you have a really large pack, especially out here in Central Oregon. It's very dry, so when you step, even with snowshoes, you're going down about 8 inches or so, which is very demanding on your body. But when you lose a snowshoe, you're actually going even deeper. You're going up to your knees, maybe up to your thighs sometimes, and it is really, really hard to move. And thank goodness that I was able to repair my snowshoe on the move, get back, and really think about quality versus sub-quality. So let's get to the review real quick. Like I said, this is a Yukon from Costco. This is the snowshoes I had out there. The reason why I bought this snowshoe instead of going with the advice of my friends is this snowshoe had some excellent straps or bindings. And just real quick on snowshoes, to go over snowshoes, you have your bindings, you have your strike plate where your foot goes, your outer frame, your decking, and then you have either what people call crampons or some people call claws. It just depends on who you talk to and what they call each piece. Now this particular snowshoe, and yes, by the way, I paint a lot of my gear, even my bow cases and things like that. One of the reasons why I do that is I go hunting or I go out with other people, and when I paint them, they don't look like everybody else. It's easy to find. When I set up the warming shelters and they're sitting outside with everybody else's, I know right where mine are. Nice, it ain't like David Canterbury says, there ain't nothing like nothing they have to be taken care of with a can of spray paint to get it to, tactical or or whatnot, which I'm not really going for a tactical thing. I just want identification when I'm out there. Anyway, past that, like I said, spend the money. What happened was, at this pivot point, right here, on this pivot point, what happened was, is both these sides, right, left and right, they're riveted together, and when it was riveted, at these rivet points, what happened was, is my foot, I was doing so much work out there going over stumps and logs, setting up a land nav course for search and rescue, I busted one of these sides. Once I busted that, my foot started to slip in these straps, and it really started to get hard to work with. So what I had to do when I was out there is I just took a piece of 550, worked it through, tied it down, and it got me back. But if I were out there, or if I was out there and a binding broke or something else broke to where I could not use this in any way or fix it, which I think I can, you know, in most circumstances I'll use 550, duct tape, whatever I got to make this snowshoe work. One of the reasons being is, like I said, you're almost immobilized when you're out there and you lose a snowshoe. A lot of people know what I'm talking about, and it's really hard to move. But I do not recommend going to Costco and buying these Yukons. I don't recommend buying a cheap snowshoe, especially if you're going to go out there. I mean, even that was my first time out on these pair of Yukons. I've been out with other friends and their pairs, but this is the first pair I bought, went out, and they broke. Very first time out, maybe 4 hours out, 2.5 miles, bam, broke. But I really like these bindings. I bought them for the bindings because it's a one pull. You know, it's a one pull right here, and it's a one pull release here, which really I like a lot compared to the other snowshoes. And I'll show you, I've got a set of MSR EVOs, and I'll show you those here in a second, and what a quality snowshoe has to offer. Now the bottom, like I was saying, you got your crampons. This only has a heel set and a toe set. Still worked well, but when you see these EVOs, you'll understand what these more crampons can do for you. So anyway, I don't recommend the Yukons from Costco, even though they have a great binding system. They are very prone to break and come loose on their rivets. Everything is riveted together, like I said. All your points they're hooking to your frame are riveted, and they're weak. Anyway, that's the Yukon. Now I'll show you the MSR. This is the MSR EVO, and it's a whole plastic frame construction, which I really like. The MSR Lightning Ascent it's not a plastic frame. It's actually got just kind of like, not like the Yukon, but it's a way higher quality than the Yukon. Plus I really like, because these are made in the USA, actually in Seattle, Washington, and they're a great quality. Now you're talking about $150. Sometimes they'll run up to $200 for a set of these snowshoes, and why you might only go up a couple times. You might want to consider maybe renting them instead of buying them. If you go up more than a couple times, which I'm starting to do now, I'm probably going to end up buying. This is actually a friend's set. I'm probably going to end up buying this. I borrowed this to try it out. It's a good way to go. If you got a buddy that's got a good set of snowshoes, try them out before you get out there. And the only thing that, I mean, I don't not necessarily dislike is, again, on the bindings. These bindings are actually, you pull them through and lock them down, and they work great. I just really like the bindings on the Yukon. I wish they could incorporate it on something like this, and maybe that's a comment or something for the future. And on these, like I was talking about, if you see here, they have a really long crampon, or claw, some people call them, and then they have here, they actually have a large toe claw. Get a little close up on that. It is large and definitely in charge. It is definitely a nice claw. And when their pivot point, this is another thing I really like about this shoe. On their pivot point, which is right here, they actually have small little replaceable pins. And on those pins, you can replace those out and get new pins. If one breaks on you, you can have some in your pack. But it doesn't allow, and this is another thing about the Yukon, it doesn't allow your boot to move off to any side of the snowshoe, which I really like. On the Yukon, with the weak pivot point, which I was talking about, which is here and here, with that weak pivot point, it allows your foot to move left or right. So when you're stepping down, you'll start moving side to side, and it really affects your movement. On the EVO, you can't do that. It doesn't allow it, which is really, really nice. I hope I can get a good shot of that. But you got the pins right in here. You have the nice crampons. Lots of traction with these. Now you might be thinking they're a little short. You also have these steep grippers in the center here that are plastic, but nice grippers. Now you might think they are a little short. The Yukons are 250-pound rated as far as the person that goes on them. These are 200-pound rated, and then you add a back piece. I'll show you that real quick. You actually add a back plate piece, which they call this the tail. And when you add this piece, it actually just screws on right here, pops up, comes right off. Nice and easy. I usually leave this piece on there because, well, I'm not exactly light, but I leave that piece on there because myself and my pack are over 200 pounds, so I make sure that this is always on there. Like again, your strike plate is nice on these. You've got no left and right movement. This is a great pair of snowshoes for roughly, I'd say anywhere from 150 to 200 where you're going. They do have the Lightning Ascent MSRs that are 259, which are super, super nice. But again, if you're going to go out once or twice, make sure that you know what you're going to get before you go out there. Real quick, I'm just going to go over pulls. This comes with the Yukon. A lot of people see these. Probably a lot of people hike with these. They're the untwist, pull down, turn them, lock them up. Okay, I'm sure a lot of people have these out there. They're fairly common, fairly cheap, and they work. They're not a bad. Of course, you see that these are painted again. They're not a bad hiking pole. Not bad at all. But I've also had these fail on me, where either the screwing mechanism breaks, which isn't as critical as the actual snowshoe breaking on you, but it is critical because they do help you out quite a bit when you're out there. Balance and everything else. Now, could step it up a little bit. REI sells Black Diamond. These are really nice. They actually have a bottom grip, top grip, and on these it's just a quick release. Not a lot to break, not a lot of moving parts. So you open that up, slide it down, lock it, done. And like I said again, there's not a lot of moving parts to break on you, so they're really easy to use. Once you get set, you're good to go. And of course, you know, you gotta have the large baskets on when you're out there in the snow. So these Black Diamonds are nice, but you're gonna pay for them. REI, I believe they were 100. So, you know, you gotta be serious. But you can use these not only in the snow, but you can also use these just on day hikes without the snow. I use poles sometimes on long hikes out there. Great for balance, save some energy. Well, you burn energy, but they're just feels good with poles going up some trails. You know, you got your balance with heavy packs. Anyway, that is my snowshoe review. If you have any questions or comments, please comment me. Like I said, I'm not super experienced in that realm, but I do have experience as far as getting out there and actually using them. I base all this stuff off of my personal experience. Like I said, I'm not an expert in the field, but I actually really like snowshoeing, and I'm going to continue, maybe even become an avid snowshoer. I do it for search and rescue. A lot of people, you know, they ask me about it. I've actually taught the classes on snowshoeing, but still, again, I would consider myself not an expert. I just have experience in the field. So if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and shoot me in, and I'll answer them the best I can. All right, Central Oregon Survival Network.